Good morning. Baruch Hashem, we go back to the beginning of Maseches Avos, starting a brand new cycle in Bez Hashem, which we able to finish it many, many times, most of all, imbibe and take all of the lessons and the ideas and the powerful transformational thoughts and words of Pirkei Avos and bring it into our lives. In the very first Perek, in the Mishnah Yud Aleph, is an interesting person who's quoted. His name is Avtalyon. Avtalyon, Shmai Avtalyon, according to most of the Messiah, Shmai and Avtalyon were Gerim. Two people were Gerim, and they were quoted one after the other. Shmai is a Mishnah Yud, and Avtalyon is a Mishnah Yud Aleph. There was a certain person throughout history who was very interesting. His life story and the way that he died, it made an interesting impression on me. His name was Janusz Korczak. Janusz Korczak wasn't his actual real name. His real name was Henryk Goldschmidt, and he was called Janusz Korczak. That was his name when he was famous in Poland. And he raised children in Poland in an orphanage. He had a very, very large orphanage in the Warsaw Ghetto, I believe. And the Nazis knew him as being someone exceptionally famous, someone exceptionally influential. And because of that, he had a radio program, many books. And because of that, when the Warsaw Ghetto was being murdered, and everyone was being taken away, especially the children were taken away early, so Janusz Korczak was offered by the Nazis his freedom. He was told, you can go, we're not going to bother you, you can do whatever you want. And Janusz Korczak took the children in the orphanage. He marched together with them to the trains. He got on the trains, and he said, not all of us are animals. That is what he said. And he went with the children of his orphanage, and he died with them. Janusz Korczak. If you go to Yad Vashem in Eretz Yisrael, they have an interesting sculpture of Janusz Korczak where he is there with his hands spread out, and there are children that he is protecting to the very, very last moment of his life. He was Jewish, he was not religious, and it was an astonishingly powerful story. Avtalyon, interesting. Some commentators explain that Avtalyon's name is actually made up of two words. Av, he was a father, and Talyon, to children. That's what he was. He was a father to children. And because he was a father to children, he made sure to constantly look after the next generation. That's why in his mission always it says, Chachomim, the Torah scholars, Hizar b'divreichem. You should be very, very careful about the things you say. Why should you be careful? Because maybe you'll end up obligating many people to exile because they learned the wrong things from that which you've taught them. And they'll end up going to a place of terrible education. And the people, the Talmidim of yours, will go afterwards and they'll die a spiritual death. And you'll have a terrible Chil Hashem that will result through those Talmidim of yours. A person should consider. Janusz Korczak, of course, cared about the next generation, and he died with them. He stood up for his values. Avtalyon, even greater. A person only lives in this world a couple of years. They say youth is wasted on the young. That's what they say. Unfortunately, when you get old, you're not young anymore, and you don't have the vibrancy of life. But even when you get old, people only live a certain amount of years. The spiritual life is infinite, it's endless. A person should be very, very careful about their spiritual life. And Avtalyon was certainly far greater than the story of Janusz Korczak. To be able to dedicate his life, sacrifice his life, and everything he could for the spiritual well-being of all of his Talmidim, it's something that we should think about too. Each one of us, like the Mishnah Avos says later on, and later on Pirkei Avos, that every one of us is a Rebbe in our way, and we have to educate those around us, teaching them even one word of Torah, two words of Torah, a pasuk of Torah, a Mishnah of Torah, a Perek of Torah. Every one of us should be Avtalyon in our own way. Bez Hashem, we should have a day full of bracha v'atzlacha.